awesome.
Whose fucking idea was this anyway?
It's a beautiful day for race car stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. We got a heater in this thing?
Well, this will keep me warm.
Yeah, right. Hang on a second, let me get you back. You're good to go.
Go through the back.
Yep. Uh-oh. Hey. Congratulations, man.
She's a little tuning.
In a little bit. It's moving, though. Under its own power.
It moves. Slowly. Corn fed. It's been a whole debacle, Rich. I'm so sorry.
I understand.
We're late. I almost fell off the trailer. The whole thing. Because our driveway's got snow and ice. And trying to get up the ramp with radials. It almost... I lost... Actually, so it turns out I was going to replace my belt molding on the sides because it's all rotted. And a great way to remove it is with the cable on the trailer door. Huh. So I haven't looked at it.
Just skim cut it right off?
Peeled it right off.
It's funny. It peeled it off, and Chevy picks up the piece and just takes off with it like it's a bone. You know,
Mine now.
just a whole debacle.
Well, you made it here.
Yeah, I don't know how. I really don't know how, but it's
This
here.
escalated very quickly because when you and I originally had talked, it was headers and we're just going to cruise it around.
Yeah, low and slow.
And then
And now it's just low and doesn't run right. It's got some fuel pressure issues. I don't know why. My regulator, like the spring that's in it, should be plenty good for like 75 psi. If I have it turned all the way in, it's got 26 psi. So I think that's why it runs like ass and it's really rich and yeah. So we didn't finish the exhaust yet. It's gonna go straight up. And that'll keep the
Keep the pressure down.
you got to do
on the
like
tires.
diesel stacks?
Instead of
Downforce.
ballast, you use downforce.
Well, it also, I hope my Harbor Freight bed liner holds up from all the E85.
It's and temperature. The flames you're going to be shooting out of the back.
It'll be fine.
It'll be fine.
I say that's probably
Just
warm,
put it
yeah.
on with a
I was thinking diesel
Elbow.
stacks.
yeah.
Yeah, how cool would that have been if we would have put the turbos backwards, like, but then it don't get cooler. Anyways, it would go right up there like the, what are those Dodge trucks, the Power Wagons?
Yeah, the little red wagons.
Little red wagon. I've done that. So anyways, we have some things to look at on this thing. I have a feeling that my steering is limited because my tie rods are hitting my frame.
Probably.
So,
It'd sit a little low on the right.
We
yeah.
have some things to look at.
You might
Probably.
find some shit that's been haggled. I mean, I
I
don't.
might find some things. That
There's a lot of zip ties,
That's not surprising.
but honestly, it's not too bad.
It's a new
Shouldn't
build.
be too bad. If we have to raise, I brought a bump steer kit. You guys can mess around, do whatever. you know, if you come up here and look at it, take a look under the hood.
Man, look at them brake lines.
Dude, factory pre-bent. Like, I'm gonna start selling that as a kit.
I like the clear hood.
Yeah,
Like that hood. It's nice
Yeah.
to see everything working.
So anyways, we put, what would you call this? The tie rod, outer tie, I don't know what you
Offset heim joint.
Yeah, offset heim joint. We put that on top, the steering arm, right? Because if you put it underneath, like most people do, well, we ran out of travel really quickly. This thing has a lot of travel. So we put it on top, and the, you know, just our micrometers, we were looking at it, and the bump steer didn't look bad. So
I like that.
the
You gotta make sure you properly calibrate your micrometers.
Oh, and then this, our control arm actually holds up our water lines. So that's real nice.
That's fancy.
Should be just tow and go. Send it down the road.
I tell you what, if I come down hard from a wheelie, we might just knock our alternator
Did you
off.
source a new frame for this car, or
A new frame? Yeah, this is the original frame.
that's impressive? Most of them I see are covered in a half-inch of scale.
Oh, that's why it's so light. You see, it was very rusty, and I whizzer wheeled all that off, so it's a lightweight frame. It's already been weight reduced.
Well, welcome back to Lucore Automotive Services. Today we're working on Tommy's C10. Old body style. 92-ish, 94, something like that. Pretty cool build, all done by Tommy with a little bit of help from his friends. But lots of respect to the young man for taking on a project like this. It's a lot of work. A lot of people don't understand how much work it is to do something like this. And then I guess they decided to have some beverage warmers with the intake track because they decided to put turbos in the bed. These are a self-contained unit, which is pretty cool. Don't have to run coolant or oil to it. Those are actually pretty neat. Comp turbo. Those are sexy. I want to spin it, but I also don't want to touch another guy's turbo. Looking pretty good. Still got a finish weld, but moving right along. Nice work, man. Let's see what we can do to make this steering situation a little better. Go ahead and start with bump steer because that's going to be the biggest thing to overcome with this rack kit that's on here. Let's raise that corner up. That's bottomed. This is going to be a challenge. You guys bring me all the interesting stuff. It has more travel than my jack. That is impressive. Stick the head sides on this thing and see what we're starting with. So I just eyeballed it to get it kind of close for a static setting. I've got my shocks dialed all the way down to softest settings. The bump steer on this is going to be an interesting thing to figure out. It may require some unconventional solutions, but that's what you run into sometimes with custom stuff, so we'll see. So it's actually set up pretty good from the start up front. I'm gonna balance out our camber, but I want to see what our camber does on lift. We'll make those even. We'll make our casters even. We might actually add some more caster to it. And let's see what our toe does. About 3 degrees, which is better than what it was. That's a lot. That's weird. That's a head scratcher there. Why is it sweeping positive 2 degrees at the very end? What's it doing? What's going on? That made it worse. Not gonna work like that. Although that probably gives you a really good idea of what I'm trying to adjust in the bump steer, because you can see how the tires sweep depending on where the tire rod end is in relationship to the parallel line between the inner joint and the ball joint. Getting those correct is what creates all the benefit of the bump steer kit. You can see right now, instead of having 2 parallel lines, we actually have a crisscross. This line from here to here, and this line from here to here. You've got a relationship of probably 3 inches vertically from there to there. The problem is we're on the ball joint line here. And where we really ideally want it is closer down. I don't think I have any smaller high clearance pieces. So, let's see what those are made out of. I might cut those down. That That might give us an improvement. So it's not much, but this is a different high clearance adapter for a Heim joint that I have. It's a little bit different height. I'm going to try these and see if they make an improvement. I may end up just cutting these down in the lathe as far as I can. I don't think I'll be able to overcome all of the toe out on lift, which is exceptionally dangerous because when you toe out on lift, when you let down, it tends to want to shoot for walls or ditches. Toe in on lift is optimal because all it does is cause extra drag, and when you come down, it spreads out. I always try to shoot toe in on lift because it's much more stable. As you guys can probably see on the Nova, after I got done with it, it went 200 mile an hour in a straight line. And that's what our goal is, to make them go straight and fast. So, it's definitely going to be top mounted, which is going to be a weird thing to overcome. But again, it's about trying to make our lines parallel so that they travel at the same rate. Let's go ahead and try these shorter ones. Wasn't much of a change, but it changed it quite a bit, almost a full degree. Final toe. Give it 2.5 degrees. Degrees. Now this one's kind of positive again. Why does that one go positive? Going to lift up, and then it's going to try to steer to the right under lift, so you're going to have to counteract it. That's a weird one. I haven't seen that one before. This side toes in 3 degrees, so it's actually toed in. How much is that steering wheel? Seems like a Baja racer, man. That's incredible wheel travel. So I think this one going so far positive at higher lift, I think this tie rod end is shorter, sorry, longer than the other rod end. So we'll figure that out here in a minute. I added another shim Picking up our attachment point. Improvement on lift. We're going to have to notch the frame rails. It's better. Now we're going out 5, 6, 7 degrees negative. Take those shims back out and go back closer. Because I'm still going negative. I'm going negative more aggressively than previously. I'm going to walk away from this one for a minute and think of a few different ways to overcome this problem. The real problem with this suspension system is the lower control arm is longer than the upper control arm, so an ideal kit for a long travel suspension system would be for the upper and lower control arms to be of the same dimension, the same geometry, so to speak. So if you look at our upper control arm mounting points right there, your ball joint, if the lower ball joint or lower control arm had a mounting point at the same relation to the upper, and the shape of the geometry of the triangle of the upper control arm was incorporated to the same lower control arm, both upper control arms would cycle at the same rate. So then you have to get your steering system to cycle at the same rate as well, which we're trying to overcome a couple problems with this rack. One is the points of the rack. The pivot point of the rack is in between the 2 points of the upper control arm and the lower control arm, and it's also a different length, so you have a completely different set of sweep with all 3 components, and you're trying to make them work together as best as possible. So this is what takes so much time doing this, and this is why I charge a pretty good amount of money to do this for people. I'm not sure how I'm going to overcome this one, because it's looking like this joint needs to be lower. I may cut one of these high angle fittings down about halfway and see if that makes us an improvement. I think I'm going to use one of mine, so that if it doesn't work out the way I want to, then I'm not out anything. I've got some of these as spares, so we'll cut up one of those and see if it makes an improvement.
Mark, back for the popcorn. Two weeks later, it's still good.
This one at high lift, it toes in and it ends up being equal. So now it would be a left-hand steer, 4 degrees, but it's, so at static and at full lift, it's square, but it's off. That's what's weird. I've never seen one do this. Huh. It's got a weird, something's going on. Oh, knockouts haven't been removed. Alright, well, I want more negative camber here. 8 inches of lift behind the front tire. That's crazy. Problem is, this rack is the wrong width. Maybe this will help you understand bump steer a little bit. Parallel line between the ball joint pivot and arm pivot, and you want this parallel line to be the exact same as this parallel line. And when we're extended up, you can see they actually look pretty close. But when it's down, see the parallel line, the arm is up from it, so they're sweeping at different angles. Right now I have my tie rod ends within a 1/16 of an inch as far as length is concerned, but my driver's side on lift they both toe out, and they toe out a lot, but then the farther up you go, the driver's side ends up sweeping in and matching the other tire at almost 0 toe. So we're going -4 degrees, and then we're going back to 0 toe. So you would have to counteract that in the steering wheel, but the question is, why is that side towing back in? And I think it's because of the rack with the tie rod ends the same length. I think the rack is offset in the car to the right, and the whole thing needs to go to the left. And I'm not sure we'll ever be able to overcome that negative toe out on lift without machining the knuckles, because I really need to go lower, so I would probably cut half of the top of the knuckle off. It definitely needs to be on top of the knuckle. Tommy was spot on that. When you go below the knuckle, it's completely wonky, and it will not function at all that way. It will be a disaster. I've got some other things. I need to take all of the upper control arm adjustment bolts, the eccentric cams. I need to remove them. The knockouts appear to still be in this, so I don't have any adjustability, and the washers are on backwards. So I'm going to do that in the morning, and I'm going to retension his wheel bearings because I'm feeling some play in his wheel bearings, and I'll kind of process what's going on with this rack to think if there's anything I can do to overcome that. This looks to be a Mustang 2 style manual rack that was adapted to the C10 program. I'll take a look at ECI and see if their information is on their web page. We may be able to do offset rack bushings, but I don't think we will be able to do that on this setup. It looks like the bushing's pretty big compared to the Mustang 2 setup. I won't know until I look into that a little deeper, but he's done a really good job, man. I'm proud of him for putting all this effort into this car. That's a lot for a young fella to do. He's learning a lot as he goes, which is awesome. That's what this hobby's all about, is You know, doing what you can with what you got and figuring it out. Hopefully learning some stuff along the way. And the next one you do better. It's kind of the name of the game on this stuff. I still need to go up more on this side. My ride height's still kind of junk. It's still low on this front right, so I'm going to throw it up in the air and put a couple more turns into the right front strut. I haven't figured out why the chassis is sitting a little off. I may go ahead and put it on scales in the morning just to see what it looks like. Especially since I'm adding a bunch of turns into this side over here. But we'll do that with body weight in the car. And I'm just trying to get a baseline that I can work with and figure out where I want to go with it. I definitely want more negative camber sitting static on the driver's side. And it'll be interesting because I'm going to be adding over a ½ degree of camber to the driver's side. Bringing it in. It'll be interesting to see what happens to the toe change on lift when I have the camber and caster dead even side to side. Because you wouldn't think a ½ degree of camber would be that big of a deal, but maybe it will be, and we'll learn that as we go. Put jam nuts on, so let's go ahead and get that done. Whenever you have a turnbuckle, you want to have a jam nut on each side to lock it together. Otherwise, the threads will actually end up pulling. Oops, gravity gets me every time. Alright, so I'm going to pull this down. I'm going to remove my upper control arm bolts, pull my knockout so I can make some adjustments to caster and camber. Ultimately, we're going to be making a bunch of changes to this down the line. I would actually like to see the rack mounted in line with the lower control arm at about 6.5 inches out, which puts it here. And that will allow us to attach to the bottom of the knuckle, and I think we'll be able to get better geometry with it. That will also improve our clearance against the frame, which currently isn't great, but it's manageable. I've got some 9/16 fine thread nuts on the way. I've adjusted and re-cotter pinned the front wheel bearings. Nice now. Yeah, let's get these get these knockouts pulled. Oh, you can see the front one's open. Back one still has a knockout. And on the back, the front one still has the knockout. Back one's got the opening for adjustments. So we're going to pop our knockouts out, and that'll allow us to maintain our geometry of both upper control arms exactly the same, and just move the point where they're mounted from, which is better for a lot of things. Easy enough. Alright, put this back together, we'll do the other side. So, trim that a little bit. Full knockout. Full knockout. You put a ground strap from here down to the chassis. And you did bulkhead connectors just like I did. Nice. Tighten that guy up. Right now, after doing my knockouts and making a little bit of an adjustment, we've got basically 7 degrees caster, a degree 0.7, 0.8 negative camber, and our toes just where it's going to be until we finalize it. Let's see what it does on lift. Now this one's starting to toe in. Really weird characteristic. We're gonna have to drive this and see what it does. I haven't figured out why that side toes in so drastically. And the other one just stays right where it's at. Can't figure that out. I haven't figured that out yet. It's got a weird dynamic to it. The steering, when you roll it over, it gets to a bind, and then it rolls through, which is kind of weird. It's probably the universal joint down there is probably binding. Definitely that universal joint binding. So I'm going to shave it a little bit. Alright guys, I think I have some solutions. I went and had some lunch, thought about some things, and came back and I'm excited for a drag and drive car. While the stance on this thing's amazing where it's at, for a straight line drag car that goes on and off a trailer, it's fine. But for a drag and drive car that's going to be driven from site to site, we need to pick this thing up off the ground a little bit. There's a couple reasons for that. One is pinion angle, and the other one is not contacting steering linkages with the frame. But I think we can take the 2-inch blocks out, do a longer shackle in the back, correct some of our pinion angle, and get better ground clearance for our shocks. We're going to move our shock brackets down 1 point for a little more travel. It's probably still going to need upper shock mount location changed a little bit. And there is some plumbing back here for the radiator that's going to need a slight adjustment, but I don't think it's too big of a deal. So that's what we're going to do in the back. Ouch! Up front, we're going to resolve my radical toe in at full lift. And I think that's because the rack is actually at an angle, downward angle, because it does have offset bushings in it. So I'm going to see if I can resolve that. And then we're going to pick the nose up probably at least an inch, which will be 2 inches higher in the back, an inch higher in the front. Maybe less than that with the different shackles I'm going to try on it. And we're going to see where that's at, because if we have a decent suspension travel, we have plenty of down travel, and we're actually probably going to limit that. But if I can move the rack down a little bit, it'll help correct some of our bump steer issue that we're running into. So give me a few minutes. I'm going to get some tools and see if I can make some quick adjustments to the back end, because what happens in the back is what's going to dictate everything I do up front. So, and if I remember right, we had a little bit of a thrust angle in the back, which I might be able to correct since I'm taking it loose. Let's see what we have. And it's not showing me the primary adjustments. So I'm not too bad in the back for a leaf sprung car, 1/10 of a degree on thrust angle, so not horrible. Currently my caster's within a 1/2 degree and my camber is dead on. My toe's varying. I'm really trying to solve that with the bump steer so that my toe stays the same throughout the range. That's the hardest part of this, and it's sometimes what takes the most time. Let me go ahead and zip these U-bolts off and see if I can get those titanium lift pucks out of the back, and we'll go from there. I keep finding stuff that's loose. It was mocked up and wasn't redone. But I'm going to put some Loctite on it. Oh, not that much Loctite. Good Lord. Like it's bleeding. Lots of Loctite. It won't come loose that way. I just put that back in the same spot. That was dumb. Got too many things going on in my brain. I don't think I'm going to have enough thread depth on those U-bolts. I can overcome that. U-bolts here that work? Probably not. Oh my god, those weigh a ton. Ballast.
Creative.
Well, I don't think I'm going to have enough thread, so I've got some spacers to take up the extra length of thread.
Get creative.
Sometimes a temporary solution is a permanent solution, so...
It's the right way, the wrong way, and the way we're going to get this done.
The way you get it done is the way you get it done sometimes. Oh, we're down to 7. That's something. So, let's recomp. Let's pick up my front end an inch. Alright, height's looking pretty good. We got good tire clearance for hitting bumps in the road. Pick up that front end an inch. I think that's gonna do. Gotta be able to drive them, not just being about dragging them. So, we actually have some clearance over here now for when we're hitting bumps. I'm going to change this rack bushing and see if I can get this down a little bit. My rack, you can kind of see it here with the old ichrometer, as Tommy would say. The rack's lower over here and higher over here. It could be part of why that tire toes in real bad, because it's coming from such a higher angle. So we're going to try and drop this rack down. Unfortunately, that means I'm going to have to probably adjust this guy here a little bit. So we'll see what we have to do there. I'll probably take him loose to start and pull my rack bushings out and see what I have to do with those. Lots of little bits. My rear toe still about a tenth off to the left. And those are on pins, so I don't think there's going to be anything I can do about that. So, being a leaf sprung car, it is what it is. We'll put some pressure in the Caltrax on the back to make it compensate for that. And that still is a tenth of a degree. It's minimal. I'll go ahead and torque down those U-bolts. I'm happy with the position there. I'm happy with the ride height. Still thinking about changing out the shackles in the back, because that will give us a little bit more pinion angle reduction, but probably only like a degree, which would get us down to 6. So a 3-degree wedge shim in the back would get our pinion angle right where we want it to be. I think I have any this width here. I'll have to think about where I stowed those away. Yeah, that's only a 2-degree, 2-inch, so that won't work. Let me make a change to my caster on this side. Want a little bit more. Make adjustment, sweet caster. Make adjustment, sweet caster. Make adjustment, sweet caster. My wheel turns better since I trimmed that steering joint. It's not as notchy as it was. That's good. Oh, within 2/10 of camber, within 2/10 of caster. That's pretty good. Especially for a preliminary, because it's not going to stay the way that this thing is. Product placement right there. I'm not sponsored by Dr. Pepper, but I wouldn't turn down some free Dr. Pepper. What do we got? Back my toe out. Let's see how it cycles. And then let's get our rack level. Did you go to our store and still get the wrong time?
No. I got 2 flavors of 9/16 nuts, because these are the only 8 they had of any type. So those are your 9/16, 18 nuts. 4 of each.
Alright, so I loosened up our support bearing. It should allow us to drop this. We're going to move this bushing and take the rack down. And then we're going to put on our jam nuts, set our toe, And we'll do another sweep and see what we've done. Hopefully it's good. Let's take the weight off this before I have it go kerplunk in my face. The first part of being competitive in something is actually being able to finish said competition. Oh, Nelly. I need a tool. What do I do with my new nuts? You can see this one is a kind of an upward angle, and this one's kind of a downward angle. So we're going to rotate this one to drop the rack, but I have to trim this big ass washer up here because the rack actually contacts here and it doesn't contact here. So to be able to get the same amount, I'm going to trim this guy right here a little bit, and then I'm going to rotate this guy down. It's not much, but when you're talking about lengths and geometry and stuff, a little bit goes a long way. But you gave me plenty of space to work on. Making the bracket, why wouldn't you just make the bracket with the bolts centered in the rack? That's a good question. It's a pair of pliers, it's a hammer. That's what you need it to be. Gotta love Nip-X. Still going to be notched the frame on this, but a little bit better. Out. Such a weird thing. It toes out to like 3 degrees, and then at that last hit it kicks back over, and it will almost even itself out, but it's on the other side. Very strange cycle. Not everything can be fixed. Sometimes you got to run it and see how it works and then make changes to the backside. I wonder if this has a bent knuckle. I've been up and down this thing too many times. I need to walk away from it. I think I'm going to get some 3-degree shims for the rear axle to reduce my pinion. That will at least make it drivable, and so they can do some tuning and get some things moving while I kind of debate on what we want to do. Might want to get some new knuckles for it. That's in the timeline for them leaving here soon, but at any rate, some of these setups can be brutal, very time consuming. This one's not something we've ever seen before. It's kind of a new style of suspension for us to look at, so it's going to take some figuring out. But once we figure it out, we can apply that to the next one, and that'll help us get the next one done that much faster. So get this guy off here, move back in the alignment rack, check our pinion angle. They did go ahead and put some new shackles in the rear, which is probably going to give us a degree or two change in our pinion angle. And we have some 3-degree shims coming to put between the axle and the leaves, which should give us a final pinion angle in the back to make this thing actually usable without spitting the drive shaft out, because that's worst case scenario, is you end up shucking the drive shaft out. I just had a 23 Ford V8 short bed pickup truck in here. We did a custom pinion angle on it because he was blowing the drive shaft out of it. So those angles, that geometry is coming in important in car stuff. I never thought I was going to use geometry, and here I am doing geometry every day.
Cold out, we're losing money. Rich, I'll let you know right now, I ran into Tommy and Allison at Jegs, and plans might be changing again. Shh, don't tell Rich. So you'll never guess who I ran into at Jake's. So
Built with Jegs.
yeah, literally like you're either gonna run into one of us or one of them. There's the 3-degree shims that I bought. There's the 4-degree shims that Tommy already had. There's
Seeing.
1-inch blocks if you want to use those.
Nope.
There's 2-inch blocks.
I put longer shackles in it today, which should get us right where we need to be with the 3-inch shim.
Okay, well there's 2-inch.
Yeah, I don't want to use blocks if I don't have to.
Okay. So don't use either of those. So those will go back. Nice thing is it kept Tommy from returning stuff if you had to bought them. Okay. Cool. Anything else you need?
Lunch.
Yeah, I thought you were leaving for lunch like half an hour ago.
I was trying to, but I had other stuff I needed to tighten up on this. He did a good job on this though, man.
Well, especially for his first time doing anything like this.
Absolutely.
Well, and that's like I've tried to explain to him too, is, and you've talked about it on camera a million times, like you have an initial eyeballs on the project, and then you take it back and you address some things that need to be addressed. And you bring it back and do it again.
Well, yeah, I pulled 2 degrees out of it. So 3 degree will put it as 2, and under load it'll be at 3. So that's 3 degree shims will be perfect for this.
Perfect.
Assuming my U-bolts don't gall when I put them in.
Yeah, don't do that.
Well, it's not a choice of me doing it or not doing it. It's the components being dirty.
You touched it last. It's your fault. And you don't have any more of those if you need them anyway, so.
I think we're gonna be okay. I'm real happy with the longer, like I could probably pull another 2 degrees out of it with the, I went with the medium setting on the longer shackle, so the shackle that I have has a 3/4 and like 1.75 inches lower. And I went on the 3/4 setting, which gave us 2 degrees in opinion. And then we'll put the shims in, which should get us right where we want to be. So that'll make it real drivable. On the front end, the rack is actually offset to the driver's side because I have 1.5 turns to the right, I have 2.5 turns to the left from center, with my tie rod ends being the same length. So the actual body of the rack is offset to the left, and which just goes back to, if we're going to use that rack, I need to lower it, rotate it, run the pinion, run the steering shaft through the frame, and get the body of it squared into the car, because then you'll have equal steering left to right.
Yeah.
And that may also be part of what's going on, because with our weird steer on the driver's side with the rack being offset, I'm not sure it's exactly square to what the car is.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got it square with a bracket, but I don't know that bracket's square to what the car is.
That's I
And if you look at those frame rails, both of those frame rails are completely different dimensions, so there's nothing symmetric about each frame rail.
Yeah.
So you can't go by what those are, what you're seeing from that.
I feel like I just did this yesterday.
I just realized I don't need to take the U-bolts all the way off to do this one.
Slide it down a little bit, stick her in there.
You can't, because the Caltrack bracket's in its way. Ooh, I almost got the camera. That's a good view. That's a good view.
Gonna need a new one of those.
Gonna need a new camera. Drop the lift on it. Oopsies.
Alright, just give me a heads up.
Yeah, I'll let you. This is my private.
Why you buy the cheap camera in case you breaks it?
Yeah. Oh, where's my light? I bet it's right where I left it over here. Hard on me. Beltec. Into my pin. That actually went smoother than I planned it. You put a little bit of oil on the threads of the U-bolt. I'll torque these down to like 65 foot-pounds. They're 9/16 bolt. torque with our shim. Let's torque this guy. Alright, let's drop down and see where we're at. I think we'll be good enough for the show this weekend. Alright, looks like one last toe adjustment. This thing will be on to better things. I had the bump steer bolts I had to take loose and put back together, so I wanted to double check it one more time. My thrust angle's within 1/10 of a degree. It's actually a little better than it was before. After putting the shims in, my rear pinion angle's right where we want it to be. Our front pinion angle's a little bit off, but we're going to run it and see how it works. When you change the angle of the drivetrain, it changes everything. So I'm just going to leave that be for now, let them see how it works. Throw some toe into this thing. That'll be that. We're within a tenth, we're within a tenth. Our toe's negligible. Unfortunately, our toe goes out on lift, and we still have this weird dynamic on the driver's side where it kicks back in, so it'll be interesting to hear what they say about it. But this thing is getting a bunch of changes after they're done with it here, so we're gonna let them come get it and take it out and do what they do with it. Get tuned a little better, hopefully have some fun, and we'll go from there. It fired up and ran pretty good for me. So really? I had to pedal it a little bit.
Yeah.
But other than that,
I gotta get that fuel pressure fixed because it's not atomizing the fuel, it's just kind of dribbling.
it's just kind of dribbling, not enough pressure.
Yeah, it's only got 26. We won't get that fixed tonight, though. Alright, we'll see how they do.
Packing with grease.
Yeah, they say like a few pumps every 4,000 miles, or like every 5 passes. That's not bad.
Cool. Get her loaded up. Got work to do.